Texas Governor Rick Perry taking new heat on the campaign trail over his executive order years ago ordering HPV vaccinations for young girls in Texas. 11, 12-year-olds had to take it, and then the legislature reversed him on that. The issue brought to light in the GOP debate this week.
The drug company gave thousands of dollars in political donations to the governor, and this is just flat out wrong.
It was a $5,000 contribution that I had received from them. I raised about $30 million. And if you're saying that I can be bought for $5,000, I'm offended.
Well, I'm offended for all the little girls and the parents that didn't have a choice. That's what I'm offended for.
Michelle Bachmann was there suggesting that it was crony capitalism that led Rick Perry to issue that executive order because his former, I think it was chief of staff, went to work for the drug company that makes the vaccine, Merck. Well, today we are learning more about where Rick Perry stands on this issue. Heather Burcham is the woman you see in this picture with Governor Perry. This photo taken a short time before the 31-year-old woman died of cervical cancer. And she spent the last months of her life trying to make sure other young women would get the HPV vaccine, which could, she said, have prevented her death.
I think it's so important that parents get their children this vaccination because they'll be able to live their lives without having to worry about getting cervical cancer, which is one of the most awful things to have. It's so incredibly painful. If I could help one child, take this cancer away from one child, it would mean the world to me.
Well, my next guests, Craig and Lisa Wilson, were friends of Heather Burcham's, and they're here with me now to put some perspective on this. Craig and Lisa, thank you so much for coming on. I know that's tough for you to watch. Heather has since died, but she fought a heroic battle, and she became friends with the Texas governor in the course of it. Craig, how did that happen?
When, after he signed the executive order and the news media picked up on this, on the HPV, and at the time it was simply just, they attached it to cervical cancer with women, and we all heard the story, and Heather was just living proof of what he was trying to do. Had she had this shot when she was young, and the preceding shots, she would have never caught cervical cancer, and she would not have died of such a horrific cancer. And so we approached the governor's office. She wanted to do it, and just to let them know that, you know, if he ever thought that she could be helpful about getting the word out on HPV, then she'd be more than willing to do it. Now, this was at the end of her life. She was weak, but she had great days and bad days. And he called her up, and we went to Austin, and she testified in front of the committee that was deciding whether this should be one of the many required shots in the Texas school system.
And the two of them formed a friendship. I mean, they formed a personal friendship of sorts. Lisa, tell us how that happened.
My husband's family has known Rick Perry for years, and when Heather moved in with us, it was about the same time that that he was pushing this vaccination, and we just we introduced them. She was unable to testify for him, but he became a friend. He genuinely cared about Heather, and we saw that. I was shocked. I've grown up around politicians. I've just never met a man that was able to maintain that. To have that sort of time to spend with anyone, to care, be able to care that much.
I know that he took her out on his motorcycle. She greatly enjoyed that. She wanted to go hunting, and he brought her hunting. And Craig, he was also there in her final days I understand,
was,
without any press attention or, limelight
Correct.
whatsoever.
And Megan, he did, and remember, to put it in perspective, he did all of this with her after the controversy was over. There was no reason for him to do anything with her. But because of who he is as a human being and treating her like a human being, he called her all the time. She had his cell phone number. She called him, he picked up the phone. He called her, they talked. He came down to Houston. I called the office and let them know that that she probably only had a few days left. He jumped in a car with one constable, drove 3 hours to her. I met him there. We sat there for probably 4 hours. And he sat next to her, held her hand, and talked to her and just had a conversation with her about everything. And he stayed there so long as she could handle it. She was very weak. Eventually she started getting too tired, and that's when it ended. And he shook my hand, he got in the car, and he went back. He had no reason to be in Houston. He had no other convenient reasons there wasn't a fundraiser in
Right.
town or anything like that. He did this out of his own heart.
And I know that he met Heather after he signed the executive order, so it wasn't this friendship that led him, to sign that
Correct.
executive order.
No.
But
There
what,
was no,
but what do you make of it? Because, Michelle Bachmann and others have suggested that the reason he signed that order was because he was trying to scratch the back of his former chief of staff who went on to work for Merck.
We based on what we saw this man do, based on the measure of his actions and not his words, and how he treated her with such dignity and respect, and how he just genuinely, honestly cared for her. He could have easily had taken her all over the state in front of the cameras and made a big production out of this, but he didn't. It was very private, very personal. He really cared about her. And because we saw that, which we know politicians, and not all of them do this, we saw that this person, he's actually a genuine human being that actually cared about somebody. And there's more than just Heather. There's other stories of people in his life. There's pictures on his desk of people that aren't politicians, that aren't famous, that he developed a relationship with for some circumstance, and he still is connecting with them.
Understood.
I mean, it's just a great measure of a man.
Well, Craig and Lisa, you are friends of the governor's, and we appreciate this perspective, and we apprete all you did for Heather, who I know you took very good care of.
well,
before
we
she
are very
succumbed
close
the
to Heather
disease.
and her family, and it took a village. It wasn't just us.
Well,
but
you're
we
very
were-
kind, and you're kind to come on. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.